All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part one of our Mainframe Intelligence Series. We're so glad that you joined us today. My name is Virginia Rogers, and I'm a customer success manager for 21CS. Part one of this series, we're really excited just to have a conversation, an open and honest conversation about three main topics today around the performance and capacity gap when it comes to Z, the talent gap that we face in our industry, and where AI can fit into that narrative. But also on the flip side, where AI might not be the best solution for a particular topic. So I'm joined today by two wonderful gentlemen in our industry that have their hands on Z every day. Truly experts in the industry. David Stevens with CPT Global and Josh Stiles with 21CS. We really wanted to make this conversational. We didn't want to bore you with a lengthy deck. And we really would like to encourage audience participation with your questions. So please bring the hard questions, drop them in the chat box. We likely will have time to address one or two of them within a certain topic that we're discussing. But nonetheless, we will have 10 minutes set aside at the end of the session for a question and answer period. I will make sure that we're moving along with our time frames so that we can get to all of our talking points. So David and Josh, if I have to politely interrupt you to move on, my apologies, but I want to make sure we get to all of the content. I will let David and Josh give formal introductions of themselves. So I will pass it along now to David Stevens with CPT Global. Thank you so much for joining us today, David.
Thanks, Virginia, and hi, everybody, and thanks very much for joining. My name is David Stevens. I am a senior, I guess you could say, senior ZOS technical geek with the consulting company CPT Global. I started mainframes in 1989 as a normal systems programmer, if you like. Did that for a while. Went to IBM and did software development, level 3 change team for about 7 years. And probably for the last, something like the last 16 years, I've been a mainframe technical consultant. Sort of things I work on can be kind of anything. For example, I've helped one client upgrade their MQ. I've gone and helped other clients identify resilience or performance problems or potential dramas. But certainly capacity and performance is probably most of the actual work I do with my clients today, from making things run faster to use less CPU to helping them find more about that performance and capacity. So that's me.
Yeah, thanks, David. So, for those that don't know me, I'm Joshua Stiles, and I lead the product management team at 21CS. I've been in the mainframe industry for about 7 years now, and I actually went to college and studied mainframes or enterprise systems at my local university. Within the last 5 years or so, I've been really helping customers with capacity and performance products, implementing solutions to solve common performance or capacity problems, and also now with one of my newer roles, solving customer problems and making sure that products can address any type of customer issue or problem itself. Um, I'm also responsible for a lot of our ZOS products here at 21CS, and I've been an IBM champion for 2 years now. And I really like to make sure that our next generation or mainframers are engaged and spending my time at local universities to make sure that they know how awesome this platform is. So now that we got introductions out of the way, let's jump right into this, David. Let's start talking about the gap in performance and capacity planning. So I'm going to kick it off with a question headed to your direction. So, in your viewpoint and your experience with customers, what mistakes do you think are being made today, and how can we put a better focus around the practice of capacity and performance analysis?
It's a huge question, isn't it? I mean, performance and capacity in itself is is such an enormous topic. And then to ask me about problems, I mean, I could probably talk for hours about war stories and things like that. But I understand I've only got about 5 or 10 minutes. And despite the fact that I knew this question was coming, I wasn't really sure which way to go. Probably for me, if I was to pick one thing at maybe at a 10,000 foot view, I'd say probably the biggest issue I see with my clients is trying to get timely, useful information to the people that need it. And that's both for performance and capacity. Perhaps to give an example, I would see in many of the customers, if you were to say, talk to a manager, a mainframe manager, and say, well, how did ZOS go this morning? How's everything running?
Mhm.
They wouldn't know. They wouldn't have an easy way of finding out. The lucky ones will probably be able to yell across the room to the performance guy or send an email or something like that to get the answers. The less lucky ones would have to fill out a JIRA and maybe wait a few hours. And the very unfortunate ones may even have to go to external service providers, negotiate costs, and get approvals before getting the information. Similarly, if you talk to maybe an application support person, say, how did your application go today? Was there more traffic than usual? Was it slower? Was it faster? How did it go? They wouldn't know. They wouldn't have a way of easily seeing, okay, well, what's happened even half an hour ago this morning. They wouldn't have that information readily available. So for me, if you were to ask me about all the problems or everything that could potentially be an issue, I reckon just trying to get information, the right information to the people in a timely manner, probably is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, right? Because without data availability, you're almost setting yourself back, right? I think a lot of teams and a lot of customers within this space are relying on metrics and insights and information that are 24 to 48 hours old. So how can you almost shift left there and be more, and I know this is a common saying across the industry right now, but being more proactive than reactive, but that's something that needs to be true for these environments. Finding a capacity problem, adding, running out of capacity, finding that out, within the hour is way more beneficial to the teams than finding that out 2 days later, right? And being able to do that root cause analysis of why that occurred within that time frame helps teams understand quicker, all right, we need to shift something here or something there rather than wait a few days to make that decision or find that information.
Yeah, I mean, and in some cases, I put them aside. I mean, capacity, you've got more time. I mean, so there's not many people that suddenly run out of capacity with 20 minutes notice. Normally, you can
Yep.
see it coming, and so it's more longer term. Now, certainly that information is still valuable, but certainly most of my customers have something to sort of like track that usage. In fact, we've got some clients that ask us to do it for them, and we're tracking the usage and seeing how it goes. Performance is another one where you can get performance hits, and that can happen fast. And I've seen that happen in several clients. Now, the ideal, I guess, is to find that out fast and then find the causes fast. And in fact, ideally, find that out before the customers see it. The reality, I think, is with many sites that I see, the first people hear of it is when the customers, when the business groups are saying, "Hey, we've got a problem," and then it takes them a lot of time to find out is there a problem, what the problem is, and going down from there.
Hmm.
And indeed, you could even argue, is this a normal problem? Does it happen every day or is it new? It's very hard as a performance guy to suddenly find the problem if you don't kind of understand your environment and what's happening and what's the normal flow and what the normal peaks and troughs are. And indeed, what is IMS transaction XXY and who's responsible and does it matter?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I want to shift just a second to, you're bringing up some of your customers and your experiences and what you think from that aspect. Um, you know, when you get called into a situation where maybe a customer's environment isn't performing well, or maybe they have a weaker capacity or performance practice in itself, what are the first few things that you're doing when you go into the environment? What information or data are you looking for, or how are you identifying the actual issue itself within that customer environment?
if I'm going in cold, I mean, the very first thing like I have to do is for just understand the environment. What have you got? What versions of software? What data is available? What are the applications? Are you Kix, IMS, DB2? Trying to find the environment, and this I guess is performance problem solving 101. What's the problem? And sometimes that can be in itself difficult to determine. And I've had some examples where there's been a performance problem, but it's taken me, I kid you not, 4 to 5 months to be able to finally understand what the problem is and start doing the analysis. Maybe the problem is only happens every now and again, or I'm
Hmm.
talking to the wrong group, or it's hard to do it. So I have to do that even before starting to go through the data. And usually, if I'm going in, I've got to use the existing data that's there. Now, the good news is that most of the clients have the data. They've
Hmm.
got maybe sort of like a Broadcom mix, or they've got a MXG, or they've got other tools that will give me that information. But I need to find out what the data is, and I need to get access to it, and then I can start sort of like, I guess, number crunching. And to be honest, the number crunching is probably step 3 or 4 down the track.
Hmm. So would you, in these environments, what's the breakdown? How does it get to a point where things have kind of gone sideways, right? Is it a process? Is it just legacy workflows put in place? What do you see the common problem and issue is when you're going into these types of environments?
I definitely, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but I do find that a lot of sites have lost the skills to diagnose, particularly performance, and to a lesser extent capacity, I guess, but certainly having those skills to sort of like identify and fix performance problems. That's it's not entry level. That's not something you give
Hmm.
the junior people. It's something that the senior people with experience are going to go for. And I think a lot of sites have, for one reason or not, started to lose some of that experience that they may have had in the past.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is, again, it goes back to that very first thing, is the availability of the right information. They either don't have the information, or they don't understand information, or they don't have access to the information. I mean, I had one client whereby there was information available, but none of the application groups even knew it was there and didn't have access to it. So that made their job a lot harder solving performance problems if they didn't even have the metrics to see whether there was a problem and where it was.
Yeah, and a lot of these in these environments, right, where, we're talking about particular problems in the workflows, but I don't think with the talent gap or the skills gap that we have now, they fully understand the full picture when it comes to, all right, if there's actually a performance issue here, or there's actually a capacity issue, what that could mean down the line when it comes to costly runs, or your mainframe spend going up because you have an application that's continuing to chew through CPU and driving your tailor fit pricing usage up as well. So it's good to point out that the talent gap is a particular issue now, but I think as we continue to have this conversation here today, we're going to find some ways where we think there might be some improvements or other tools, considering like AI, that can help with some of these newer to Z people get caught up to speed quicker, but also make an impact based on information that's now in large language models. But it still goes back to that point that none of this is possible without data availability and having the right data into the right process and workflows. If you don't have the right data on Z, or you're missing data, or actually don't know how to digest that data, none of this makes sense anyways, because that's the foundation of everything that we're talking about today.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I think, I mean, sometimes it's easy to get over just go straight to the data and try and solve the problem. But
Mhm.
the basic skills of problem solving, and I've
Yes.
just like literally last week finished a week course where I've taught them the basics of problem diagnosis, and
Mhm.
tried to teach them the steps and how to go about it, but also understanding the environment. I mean, if you parachute me into a brand new site and say, here's a problem, I'm probably not going to be able to help them in the first few days of trying to figure out what the lay of the land is, who is what are the normal cycles, is a problem. And one of the first questions when you're faced with a problem is, well, is it a problem? And performance guys will tell you stories of problems are reported that are not problems or are normal, or someone's PC was slow, or other things. So solving performance problems, it is an art. It is something that requires training and experience and time to learn how to do it all. But there's no doubt, and your point I think is very valid, in the fact that the number one tool set that performance people have is the performance data. And capacity is basically the same. Like I said, capacity, you've got more time, and maybe sort of like it's not as time sensitive and there's less permutations, but the basics are similar.
But when we're talking still about capacity, right? There's still an art to that because you need to have some level of confidence when you're trying to look at upgrades, right? Or adding specific capacity, or just analyzing where the environment or where a heavy consumer is from a MIPS or MSU standpoint. So it's not, I still think a lot of teams that we see struggle with that predicting future needs side of the house. All right, if I bring in a new business line and it's going to grow my overall usage by 10%, what does that actually mean for the underlying systems? What does that mean for DB2? What does that mean for MQ? And I think that's in itself kind of a hard problem to solve with not only existing workflows, but manual type of calculations that we often see in customer environments, spreadsheets for days, simulations that are done manually. I think that in itself could be a potential issue and is still something that is hard. Maybe it's not as hard as understanding the performance of the system, but it's still some type of science that you need to master to make sure that you're spending and you're allocating your dollars properly and don't overspend on capacity that you might not actually need based on the forecast.
Now, you're making a really good point. It's interesting, isn't it? Because capacity has actually morphed over the last 20 years. When I first started, capacity was, as you mentioned early on, making sure your machine was big enough. And so, like, every couple of years you do your modeling and you say, well, I need a machine and I need more memory, I need more CPU, and that was capacity planning. But now, with all the consumption-based metrics and the different agreements about capacity and everything, it becomes multifaceted. So you still got the hardware. I mean, you may have ISVs and they're worried about I guess you can say, the MIPS capacity of the estates and various permutations. Plus, you've got the IBM, and chances are you might have some TFP products, you might have some MLC products, and you might have a couple of IPLAs with their sort of like value units that you've got to do. So capacity planning, it's not just technical, but you almost need to have this business degree to understand where your money's being spent. And that's something you don't have to do for performance. Performance is generally more technical and just how fast it is. But capacity is really, where's my money going and how do I reduce that spend, or at least prevent it from increasing more than I'm willing to swallow, if you like.
Or also maximize your return on investment, right? Too. That's the part of it. How can if I'm going to a Z17 and it has all these new capabilities, how do I make sure that the environment is also taking advantage of those as well?
And
I
Josh,
love
you
that
mentioned,
term. Sorry.
I'm so sorry, Josh, you mentioned maximizing your investment, and you made a comment earlier about, the new to Z talent and getting them up to speed as quick as possible, which I know the thoughts are flowing with part one around performance and capacity, but I felt like that was a great segue into part two for the talent gap. Are we ready to move forward?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think we kind of hit on it a little bit, which is good, and started highlighting some of the issues. But look, I when we talk about the talent gap, we're not just talking about new to Z, fresh kids out of college, right? These are anybody that's joining the mainframe ecosystem. They could be mid-career, they could be a little bit later in career. We're really talking about people that have limited knowledge of the platform and what the platform can do and bring to the table. So, I want to just share a quick story from my perspective. I was one of those kids that was fresh out of college, and even though I did have a couple of classes based on ZOS, and I understood the true value the environment brings, it's like an iceberg. There's a whole 90% of other things that you need to pay attention to and you need to learn. And I mean, the first company that I worked for, I didn't know what a MIP, I understood the idea of a MIPS or MSU, but I didn't really understand the true perspective of if I submit this batch job and it runs for 2 or 3 hours longer than I was anticipating, there's a cost associated to that on the other end, right? So, in our environment today, there's a lot of people that are coming in, and we'd like that. We'd love that we have new to Z, and we're trying to address the talent gap, but there's still that area where people don't fully understand the ramifications of doing one thing or doing the other thing, or understanding the ramifications of tuning, specific applications so they're more efficient. So I think for us, we need to address that in a sense that we provide the right tools and make sure that they understand the data itself. So. Um, I think we're doing a great job with this and pushing, but how do we get users to pick up capacity planning and performance analysis, David? What do you think, like, the key things we need to do within this practice to make sure that this talent gap is addressed? And we're also, like you said, training the people new to this platform so that they understand everything that is encompassed with this particular practice itself.
And it's certainly going to be hard. And I think a lot of my clients, they're feeling the pressure whereby they've got an aging talent pool, if you like, and so they're
Mhm.
trying to get new talent in, but that new talent has started to be spread thin. So not every site can then have two people doing capacity planning, a senior person and a junior person, and put that junior person onto a 3-year training program to bring them up to speed. You
Mhm.
might find that junior person is going to be shared amongst all sorts of different things, and in some cases might be doing capacity planning in their spare time.
Mhm.
Performance, as I said, is probably even a bigger deal because that's really senior technical stuff, and it takes a while. So you need to get some people, you need to get them into the areas, getting them familiar, and also training them up. And the courses to do that, there's not a lot out there. I mean, there's not that many sort of like providers. When I was young, there was lots of courses. Now it's hard to find them. And indeed, even when you do the courses, you need someone that can then teach you along the way of how to do it. Now, at CPT Global, we have an associate program that I run whereby we are taking people with mainframe skills, anything from 2 to 5 years experience, and then we take them on a course, more of a apprenticeship to bring them up to being a consultant and to being able to do exactly what you're talking about, the performance and the capacity planning. And we've had good success, but they've needed someone willing to teach them. They've needed, obviously, sort of like the ability to look at live systems, and they've needed time to understand and to get those skills up. And certainly, I feel sorry for some sites because some sites that's just not an option.
Yeah, and I think there's something said, right, about the time it takes to learn all this, right? I mean, to be a true professional in this space, it's not, 6 months of a course. It's multiple years of going through the motions in an environment. It's also kind of being thrown in the deep end to some extent, right? Where, maybe there is a performance problem and you're set out on an island to figure it out on your own. I think that is a decent way to learn. But yeah, companies nowadays don't have what, 6, 8 years to get somebody fully caught up to speed of how to run the environment efficiently, but also understand the practice of performance and capacity. And like you said, a lot of these people are doing dual roles now. Not only are they trying to make sure that the environment's running efficiently, but they're also planning for future upgrades. So there's a lot going on that the new to Z and just anyone new to the platform needs to fully understand and grasp and learn along the way. So I think as a platform and as an ecosystem ourselves, we're heading in the right direction to some extent, right? Where there's a lot of simplification plays, there's a lot of simplifying the environment, also bringing the environment up to industry standards or industry best practices through APIs, through other mechanisms. But really, we've started to see AI, and we'll touch on this in a little bit as well, but we started to see AI become more relevant within the platform as well. So personally, I think that with AI and some of these frontier large language models, we can almost have some sort of guidance to our junior team members so that maybe they're not bugging the senior performance guys often because they can interact with these large language models to understand, all right, is this an actual issue? Is this something I might be able to or something I should escalate? It can help with some of that elementary root cause analysis that you said is so important when it comes to this particular practice itself. But I don't think AI is end all be all here, right? It's you still need the human in the loop. You still need to be cautious about the output that you're getting. You still need to make sure that you're verifying and double checking. But I think with the infusion of AI into the platform, we can maybe see that curve of how long it takes to get people caught up in this environment flatten to maybe 2 to 3 years versus 6 to 8 and being experts in themselves. So I think we're in a particular interesting time where, we are trying to address the talent gap through simplification, modernization, but also with AI, it kind of helps these junior guys maybe get caught up to speed a little bit faster than we normally thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, I think organisations. You came back to what can organisations do. For me, I mean, the number one is to try and get your talent pool, your in-house talent pool. They're the people that are with you. They understand your thing, and they're the people you need. So my number one option would be to find and train up the talent to do these really critical tasks. If that becomes a challenge, then probably the other two options are either going for tooling or going for services to sort of augment that initial people. But certainly, I think it's a brave Azure site that doesn't have some performance or capacity staff that with the adequate tools and knowledge to sort of like help them out.
And so you mentioned also your program that you guys run at CPT. How long are you guys running that? Like, how long do you see a lot of your associates start to make a difference? Not only with the company, but maybe helping with customers. How long, what are you seeing from your perspective?
Ours is a little bit different. It's not a course. It's you could almost call it a classic apprenticeship where you've got a
Mm,
junior and a senior, and the senior is guiding the juniors sort of like path. And obviously, our consultants have different specialities. Some are doing assembler, some are doing capacity, some are doing kick, some are doing
mm,
storage. So each person's path is different, and we don't have set periods. Like we don't say you are apprenticeship for a year and then you get the
mm.
gold ticket or anything like that. It's more tailored to the individual. But we're certainly finding that sort of like with our mentorship scheme, we're actually getting our associates working on client sites very quickly with some a few months of like intensive training and practice and everything, and then they can start working with client sites under the supervision of a senior person, and then they learn fast. And I think the average is something like about 18 months, 2 years. It goes from beginning that mentorship program to being a CPT consultant. And we're really happy with that progress.
Yeah, so and I think that's now a good segue into what we want to talk about in our final part here, which is I think can be controversial depending on who you talk to when it comes to AI. But AI and artificial intelligence is going to be part of our lives one way or another. But I think it's more about how can we make sure that we're getting the best out of AI while also trusting our employees and humans with making the right decisions and asking the right questions so that we can get beneficial results, not only for the environment, but so that the team members or customers can learn from the data that's within the environment itself. So, like I mentioned before, AI is not the end all be all. It's still going to benefit from having that human judgment or human emotion. And I think as an environment, we're going to be a little skeptical of it making, major changes, actually driving insights, but it's going to be good at some of those daily tasks, those things that take, performance analysts or capacity planners weeks or months to do. It's going to help speed up some of those day-to-day processes and maybe add some additional information or infuse additional insights into that us humans just maybe haven't even thought of. So we've talked about some of the mistakes that we've seen customers make. David, in your opinion, if we start to infuse AI into the performance and capacity space, and some of that's already been done, right? We've had machine learning in the past, we've had historical trending and AI helping with some of that, picking up on trends, anomalies. But, some of the mistakes we talked about, how do you see AI infusing into this space and bringing it forward in the future?
Um, it's an interesting sort of topic. I mean, and if you look at AI, I think you've got the whole spectrum of sort of people that think it's a fad and it's going to go away to the people that think that it's going to solve everybody's problems.
Mhm.
Realistically, I think it's somewhere in the middle. However, I mean, for me, I don't see the question: how do I get AI into my business, into my technical, into my people as being the question. For me, I think a better question is let me look at the problems. What tools are available? AI is one of them. Is it the best tool to solve my need? And I think
Mhm.
that for me is maybe, certainly in my opinion, I think that's a better attitude, if you like. I think AI is going to be exciting. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the tools are going to be great. But I'm a big fan of what I call appropriate technology. So for me, I think AI should be used where it makes sense, and I think AI should not be used where it's not. That's going to change from case to case and people to people, but maybe just having a bit of a AI is good, but it's not going to solve everything. Attitude may be healthy.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth to that, right? A lot of solving complex problems, you always need to take a step back and actually say, all right, what problem am I trying to solve here? In our particular space, maybe it's, you're looking at your TFP contract and you're saying, are your TFP output, all of the metrics that come and add up to your tailor for pricing contract that you get the bill at each month or at the end of the year, and you say, why is my spend out of control? What is actually contributing to that? And maybe that's a useful area where maybe some AI analytics or maybe an AI chatbot can help provide that root cause analysis pretty quickly. But is AI going to go and fix your problem? No. You still need a human to go address the underlying issue that's at hand and factor that into the analysis. So I do believe that you are on the right track where technology, you need to have the technology solve real world problems. AI is not going to solve everything, but there's certain areas within particularly the capacity planning and performance analysis space where I think it can be extremely beneficial. And I think one of those areas is providing root cause analysis. And I think a lot of the customers that we see and talk to nowadays, and hopefully it stays true for you as well, David, is, going back to that, it takes sometimes hours or days for us to understand what the actual issue is. There's so much information out there. We have the data, it's available. But for us, it's hard to pinpoint the exact particular issue or root cause of what might be causing a particular application or job to chew through so much CPU. So I think in that instance, AI can help speed up some of the root cause analysis and run through tons of different metrics, pair it and compare it, and also what's the word? Sorry, the word I'm looking for is group it together as well. So I think it can do a lot of that aspect very well. Um, and pairing that with the right tooling and the right data, we could probably see some return on investment within customer sites today.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, certainly, I've never used AI. I mean, certainly, I'm not seeing the customers jump in there and they've already got AI and they're running around. I think they're very interested in what it can do, and I think we're on the cusp of the next couple of years where there will go more. And for me, let's take SMF data processing as a classic. I've got my associates, and I do this every time, hours going through SMF data, collating it, changing it, modifying it, looking for things, realizing they averaged the wrong thing and some the wrong thing, doing it again, coming up with a graph. The graph doesn't really work, and going back and trying it again. So I think AI doing maybe the first steps, or at least
Hmm.
collating all the data and providing you with a small subsets that it thinks is valid is going to be great.
Hmm.
Relying on AI to the point where I only look at the data that AI presents a potential problem that I guess it needs to be addressed. And in many ways, this is probably some of the learning, again, that people like I am going to have to do, is how best to leverage AI. And I think that's probably going to be yet another skill, adding on to all the other ones I've had to add on to my toolkit over the years, from learning Unix to Java to now AI.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to that point, is human judgment is always going to be needed. So if AI can help us get to the point where we're making better decisions, but we also have to just validate them, a smaller subset of data versus a large pool of data, I think that's a good first step within this platform, and particularly the performance and capacity planning space.
I guess
Um,
the problem is as well is, like, at the moment, is the AI where you're getting quality results from it, and certainly there's a lot of permutations of whether it does and doesn't, from obviously the actual AI to the training data to the questions asked to the actual sort of like all those things. So again, I think AI is an interesting tool, but I'm not using it heavily yet, and I actually don't expect to do so for a couple of years, until I can be personally confident of what it's producing is what I want it to produce.
yeah, no, that's a great point. So we got about 10 minutes left here, Virginia. I think we have a couple of questions in the chat from what I see.
We do. Yes. So we had some come through the chat, and then we have one in the Q&A box. Um, let's see here. Let me pull up. Let me move to our question slide here. So while we get to these questions, if you all want to type your questions, we will have David and Josh keep an eye on them, as well as myself. And we also wanted to let you know about part 2 of our webinar series, the Mainframe Intelligence Series. Part 2 will take place on August 18th. You can scan this QR code to register. It will be hosted by one of our very own, Steve Sossaman, who's a solutions architect with 21CS, and he'll be joined by a couple of special guests that will be sitting on a panel, kind of talking about how they navigate performance and capacity in this new AI era with the mainframe. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Feel free to register. And Josh, David, can y'all see the Q&A box on your end?
Yes. Do you want to pick something out here and we can go from there?
So I'm looking at Samesh's question right now, the one that came into the Q&A section, um, asking about, so new to IT, experience elsewhere, achieves the Explore All-Star, 4 OMPs, top 20 Z Explore Global Leaderboard. That's tremendous. Doing a codeathon now. What else does he need to do to reach the baseline of the mainframe career?
Yeah, so it's a good question, right? Experience everywhere, achieve Z Explorer All-Star, which is fantastic that you put a lot of time and effort into that. 4 OMPs, um, doing a codeathon now. What else do I need to do to reach the baseline of the mainframe career? Well, I think that depends, right? So it depends what situation you're in and what your um, actual role is going to be within your company itself, right? So are you more focused on a system programmer aspect? Are you more focused on being a DBA? I think in the different disciplines within the platform itself are going to have its own subset of challenges to become that expert. But I think you're well on the way of just completely understanding the platform and are at a point where you're ahead of the game for most people coming into this platform by going through a lot of those beginning courses itself. David, I don't know what do you think about that as well?
I am so happy that Samesh wants to join IBM Z and become a mainframe person. So
Mhm.
an excellent sort of like a choice, Samesh, and good luck with your career. And like Josh has sort of said before, I'm not sure your situation, whether you're already in a company and looking for a Z position, or you're outside a company and looking for a Z position as a new hire. either way, I think showing that you're interested in mainframe and are keen is probably a good option as you sort of like try and get those mainframe careers. And there's a couple of things you can do. I think there's Master the Mainframe that IBM has, which is a competition. I don't know whether that's an option. I think interskill learning may have one or two free modules that you can just do yourself, just to sort of like go through those to do that, and doing some of those things to show that you're keen, I think is going to be a really good thing. There is even a couple of mainframe open source projects like Zowie, for example, that I'm sure they'd like more people doing some testing or reviewing documentation as you enter the world. And getting involved in those certainly can't hurt, showing that you're keen with Z and you're ready to give it a go. So hope that helps, and good luck. And I'm excited to have you with the mainframe community.
All right, I think
Oh,
there's another question here from somebody about the role in of AI and kicks. Do you want to read through that, Virginia, for us?
yes. So in this, the one from Prasanth, is that the one you're referencing, Josh?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So David, looks like you and Prasanth have worked together in the
We
past.
know each other. We worked before. So
There
thank you
you
very
go.
much, Prasanth, for joining. And thank you very much for the question. I enjoyed working with Prasanth very much.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, the question is, can artificial intelligence effectively delve into deep mainframe system programming aspects to provide meaningful insights? Specifically, I'm curious whether AI can accurately assist with tasks such as fine-tuning KICS CSD, KICS system definition, files, or suggesting optimal modifications for DB2 system programming parameters like the, okay, ASU time format. Looking forward to hearing.
Well, Josh, you've got the 21st century software sort of like things. Is there anything in your toolbox that can help out, Prasanth?
Yeah, I think there's some interesting aspects of this that we can provide. There's definitely tooling out there that can help provide insights into how to tune that. But if I'm reading between the lines, I think what they're looking for is how can AI drive the specific change, and also I think for the second one, for optimal modifications to DB2 system programming parameters. I think that's a classic scenario where if you have clean, actionable data and data that kind of has been aggregated or formatted in a way, and pairing that with some of the frontier large language models that have been trained on DB2 specific manuals, I think that is an interesting use case where you could potentially see some parameters being specified and giving you some formats that might be specific to your environment itself. But, kind of going back to what David was saying and kind of what I was mentioning too, you also want to verify that, right? Even though they might be giving you a parameter, it might be something that doesn't particularly apply to the rest of your environment or apply to the full situation. So I think it's good to get most of the way there, but also making sure that you use human judgment and making sure that you verify against the data and you have a grasp of the data is very important if you're going to be making specific system changes within the environment. We don't want you to bring down anything or create a massive outage. So always have human judgment, human in the loop, and human emotion in anything that you do. And double checking AI is very important, even though it gives you optimal settings.
All
Yeah,
right.
I know there's a lot of the monitors that are out there. I think are starting. I think BMC AMI and SysView and some of the other monitors. They're actually starting to come out with AI advertised as being part of the solution. I haven't used any of those yet, so I don't have any practical experience. But at the moment, I am eager to see evidence that it can do this thing, but I haven't seen that yet. So I don't know whether they can do it. That's probably the vendors can help you out, but certainly I can't imagine it's going to be long before it's going to start giving you some of those recommendations. I guess it's going to be interesting to find out where they're going to get the actual training data. They need a lot of training data before they can do it. So I wonder where they get it from. But anyway, I digress. Sorry, Virginia.
No problem at
Yeah,
all. I definitely, Josh, there's a question I think you'll love to answer from Jim. He's asking, what products is 21CS bringing to the table to support performance and capacity management?
Yeah, great question. So we recently announced our new product, Optima. Stay tuned for the rest of the webinar series as we continue to get to that point. But let's have a conversation, Jim, and see what else we can do for your specific needs. There's also a question here from John that I just want to answer, John Baker. It seems that many organizations are looking for shortcuts, either make the platform simpler or ask AI to tell me what to do. They don't seem to want to invest in hiring and training new staff while their experienced people are still here. It will take time and money, and many businesses don't appear to want to invest in either. Your thoughts? David, do you want to handle that? The beginning of that?
Um, yes, I do, but I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. I think I said it right at the beginning. I think there is going to be a temptation that says AI is going to solve my problems. And because AI is coming, I don't need to hire people. I don't need to train them up. I think we've kind of talked a little bit about that over the last 45 minutes or so. Certainly for me, I think the smart sites recognize that they need people. They need people with the mainframe skills, and the need for those skills isn't going to go away. I think at the moment, certainly over the next 5 to 10 years, AI is going to take some of the lower level work away, but it's not going to take all the work away. And sites still need mainframe technical abilities. And I think the smart ones are going to continue to invest in people, invest in training, invest in sort of like bringing to them. AI within a few years might mean that those people can do more with their time. It might mean you need one or two less of them, but I don't think it's going to end them. And I think any site that does what John's suggested and saying AI is going to solve it, I don't need to hire people, I don't need to train people, I think in 3 to 5 years they're going to be hurting.
And I think John, you're right, you're hitting the nail on the head there. But I also think that we do see a decent amount of companies doing exactly what you're saying with investing in the right people while their experienced people are still available and can do that knowledge jump. And if I've learned one thing over the last 7 years is the ZOS community is like no other community, and the willingness to share and share information is great within this community. So well, there are companies out there that, have put the line in the sand that they just want to maybe, just have AI solve all their problems. There are a lot of companies that are investing into that next generation, but they are focusing on making the platform simple and making it easier to understand. And I think that's the right direction if we're going to continue to make investments into this platform. So I think we're out of time here, Virginia. Is
We
we're about to
are,
wrap up.
yes, and thank you all so much for your engagement and your questions. If there are any remaining questions that we did not have a chance to answer on the session today, we will follow up with you individually. And I wanted, in case you wanted to connect with myself or Josh or David, we have our QR codes that link directly to our LinkedIn pages here. You can feel free to connect with us, send us a message, or of course, you can shoot us an email. We've really enjoyed engaging with you all today and hope that we will see you for part two on August 18th. I'll go ahead and leave this slide up for another minute or so you can take your time scanning, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, David.
Thanks very much, Josh. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.